Welcome to Mayfield. Are you new to this beautiful little town? My family and I moved here just a little over 2 years ago, but I have been a regular visitor for most of my life. I'm not an authority on the history of Mayfield, but I'd like to share a few early historical points that I've recently learned and think are fascinating. What I'm going to share came from various sources, but most of the information comes from a historical compilation called Looking Back to Yesterday, A History of Mayfield, Utah, 1871 to 2015, put together by Mary Louise Sorensen and her daughter Linda Miller. Most of us are familiar with the 24th of July, Pioneer Day, celebrating the day Brigham Young's company arrived in the Salt Lake Valley in 1847. It was only 2 years after their arrival that the Native American chief Wakara approached Brigham Young, who agreed to send settlers to the Sandpitch Valley to teach his people agricultural skills. By the fall of 1849, the first settlers arrived in Manti. The peaceful beginning did not last, and skirmishes between the settlers and natives began. After Chief Wakara died in 1854, his brother, Chief Arapeen, gave the deed of the valley land to Brigham Young as a peace offering. It is said that this Chief Arapeen spent the rest of his life, which was about 6 more years, in the 12-Mile Creek Indian Reservation in what is now Mayfield. Arapeen's teepee was placed on the brink of the hill just behind where this church building now stands. Many locals still refer to the land on the 12-Mile Creek as the Indian Farm. Across the valley, conflict and war between the natives and settlers continued until federal troops intervened in 1872 and forced the Ute tribe to the Uinta Reservation in northeast Utah. In the spring of 1871, the first pioneer settlers came to this little valley, then known as Arapeen. Groups from Gunnison came to this area for timber, and among them were 3 men who saw a wonderful opportunity to settle the area. They were Carl Olson, Mads Sorensen, and Simon Hansen. After 2 years of preparatory work on the land, these men brought their families to Arapeen and were soon joined by 13 other families under the direction of the Gunnison Bishopric. The area they settled was north of 12-Mile Creek and commonly referred to as the Order. These citizens agreed to live by the rules of the United Order of Enoch, which was based on the law of consecration and required church members to deed all of their property to the church, which in turn would be redistributed among members according to need. The name Mayfield was chosen when the United Order Articles of Association were recorded at the Sanpete County Courthouse on September 14, 1874. The order was dissolved in 1877 after 3 years of friendly, productive unity. Speaking of names such as 12-Mile Creek, 12-Mile Canyon, and 9-Mile Reservoir, these names signify their distance from Manti. In the spring of 1875, 21 young families moved from Ephraim to the area on the south side of the 12-Mile Creek. This new town site grew rapidly. A sawmill and flour mill were soon established, blacksmith shops were very busy, and stores opened. Here are a few historical points in town. On the Order, a church was built and used for school in 1884. It later became a bonnet factory. The block where the old school now sits was designated the town square. One part was called the tithing yard. A small adobe building was occupied by the bishop. 2 granaries and a large barn were also there. In 1878, a school, also used as a church, was built on the northwest corner. The Relief Society Hall, located on the southeast corner, was completed in 1885. There, they held Sunday meetings, weddings, socials, theatricals, and other entertainments. In 1900, a 2-story brick schoolhouse was built on Chief Arapine's site, where the church now stands. The bell was rung every morning to tell the children it was time to go to school, and again every evening at 9 o'clock, which was curfew for all children to be in bed. That bell is now displayed in front of our current town hall. That school was used until the new school was completed in 1922. Many other events took place at the new school, such as concerts, dances, plays, movies, and political meetings. It functioned as a school until 1954, when it was closed and all students began to attend school in Gunnison. In 1959, the vacant schoolhouse became a care center called the Mayfield Manor. It served the area for 50 years, after which the remaining residents moved to a new care center in Centerfield. The fenced-off area to the south of the cemetery was Camp Mayfield, a Civilian Conservation Corps camp, or a CCC camp, which was part of the U.S. government's New Deal program to provide financial relief during the Great Depression. Camp Mayfield housed 188 men, mostly from Kentucky and Tennessee. These men worked with the Forest Service to improve the roads into the canyon and also built the southern end of Skyline Drive. Plans for a new church building began soon after the children moved to the new school on Town Square in 1923. In 1935, removal of the old school began brick by brick, salvaging all that could be used for the new building. Digging the basement was a tremendous task, being done by plows and horses. The supervisor of Camp Mayfield generously dug the basement using his government equipment at no charge. I truly appreciate the time and effort taken by Mary Louise Sorensen and Linda Miller to compile all of this information. There's so much more to read and learn from their history of Mayfield. One of my favorite quotes from their book is, "The creek still roars through the town in Maytime, but sings a quieter song in August."